A cold, emotionless message, posted quietly on the British royal family's official website at 6:04 a.m. No signature, no explanation, just words. By order of internal review, an announcement regarding matters of personal conduct will follow in due course. That was it. Understood? No press briefing, no background leaks, no whisper from a palace source to the BBC. Silence. And in that silence, the storm began to brew. Understood? Journalists scrambled for confirmation. Public figures called emergency meetings. News anchors stumbled over speculation. Live on air, their scripts blank. This wasn't just unusual. It was unthinkable. The monarchy, known for its precision, its ritual, its choreography down to the second, had broken character. Why? Why now? What were they hiding? And most chilling of all, who is this really about? If there is one thing the British royal family excels at, it is control. Understood? Control of image, control of timing, control of narrative. For over a century, the House of Windsor has operated with near military precision. Every handshake, every wardrobe choice, every glance exchanged across the balcony of Buckingham Palace. Calculated, choreographed, contained. Nothing leaks without purpose. Nothing is spoken without rehearsal. And certainly, nothing is ever unexpected, which is why this announcement sent shockwaves through every layer of British society. Understood? To post a cryptic message in the early hours of the day, with no royal crest, no named signatory, and no context? Unprecedented. Understood? Even the most seasoned royal correspondents, the ones who know which footman to call, who've built careers on inside whispers, were left fumbling. Phones rang. Sources went quiet. Newsrooms froze. And then came the timing. The message was first noticed just after noon, but it stated that an official statement would not come until 6 p.m., 6 hours. Underscore, 6 long hours of total silence. In royal terms, that's an eternity, especially when nothing, absolutely nothing, leaks in the meantime. What was this delay? Why the wait? And perhaps the most unsettling question, what were they preparing for? Because unlike a sudden death or international emergency, events that demand instant protocol, this was internal, deliberate, coldly strategic. Understood? As the hours ticked by, a pattern emerged, or rather, a break in one. 2 names, 2 faces, were conspicuously absent. Prince William, Princess Catherine, the future king and queen consort, nowhere to be seen. Not in public, not in private statements. Not even mentioned in the usual sources close to the couple leaks. Understood? At first, the public held its breath. Perhaps they were traveling. Perhaps there had been a private family matter. The palace would surely explain, eventually. But as the minutes dragged into hours, something shifted. This wasn't just a delayed appearance. It was a deliberate silence. And in a royal family that thrives on visibility, routine, and relentless presence, an absence like this doesn't just raise questions. It screams that something is very, very wrong. Because when the heirs go silent, the whole world starts to listen in the ever-changing landscape of modern Britain. Few things remain constant. Governments rise and fall. Policies shift. Public opinion drifts like wind through Westminster. But one thing has always remained. The monarchy. For centuries, the royal family has stood as a symbol of tradition, continuity, and calm in a storm. And in recent decades, as the world modernized, one couple emerged as the future, not just the crown, but the country itself. Prince William and Princess Catherine, the golden pair. Educated, graceful, composed, they offered a perfect blend of royal tradition and relatable humanity. They weren't distant figureheads locked behind palace walls. They were present, visible, predictable. Their lives became a rhythm the public could count on. Understood? School runs in the morning, charity visits by midday, dressed to the nines at a state banquet by night. Photos, press releases, waves from the car window, every moment woven into the fabric of royal duty. This wasn't just spectacle. It was strategy. Their appearances weren't optional. They were essential, because for the monarchy to survive in a democratic world, visibility is everything. Engagements, walkabouts, ribbon cuttings, smiling in the rain beside pensioners and schoolchildren alike. These are not just gestures. They are the currency of royal relevance. Understood? So when William and Kate disappear, without explanation, the silence is deafening. But here's the thing. This didn't start yesterday. Over the past year, there have been cracks, small ones, hairline fractures in the carefully polished image, missed appearances here and there, initially blamed on illness, scheduling conflicts, or private family matters, whispers of tension behind closed doors, the sudden cancellation of a royal tour, the quiet removal of planned events from the official calendar, with no reason given, and of course, the public statements that said everything and nothing at the same time. Even Catherine, known for her steely calm, began appearing less often, fewer speeches, briefer engagements, moments where the sparkle in her eyes didn't quite match the practiced smile on her face. Was it exhaustion? Pressure? Something deeper? Nobody knew. And nobody asked, not publicly, because to question the future king and queen is to question the very foundation of the monarchy itself. Mid-sentence. Unscheduled palace update. Royal family breaks protocol. Major announcement incoming. The post appeared like a digital ghost. No media event. No palace footman. Just a quiet insertion on the royal family's official website. Sterile in tone, surgical in its language. And immediately, the world snapped to attention. News outlets halted broadcasts. Anchors fumbled for words. Online forums exploded. Twitter turned into a frenzy of speculation and fear. And through it all, no one knew anything. The message had one job, to unsettle. And it did. But what followed, that's what turned confusion into full-blown chaos. Because this wasn't just about a strange message. It was what came, or didn't come, next. William and Catherine were expected at an engagement in Manchester that very afternoon. A children's hospital. A smiling photo op. The kind of event the public had seen them do 100 times before. Press had been briefed. Schedules had been circulated. The red carpet had already been laid out. Cameras were rolling. Reporters were live. Crowds had gathered. And then nothing. No motorcade. No palace security. No arrival. No explanation. At first, people assumed a delay. Maybe a travel mishap. Maybe a quiet change to the itinerary. But then minutes turned to hours. Phones of royal correspondents went unanswered. Palace aides refused to comment. The hospital issued a vague statement about unforeseen circumstances, and nothing more. The royal couple had simply vanished. And in their absence, speculation ignited like wildfire. Was this a medical emergency? Had there been an accident? Or was something far more personal unfolding behind those ancient palace walls? Social media circled in on Catherine, resurfacing every photo, every appearance in the past 6 months. Her posture, her expressions, her rumored surgeries, her disappearances. Others turned to William, noting his recent silence, his subdued expressions, his rare missteps in public. And then came the tabloid theories. A rift between brothers reignited, a quiet breakdown of royal responsibilities, or even, though few dared say it aloud, a royal separation. But the truth? No one knew anything. Even palace insiders, the same anonymous voices usually so quick to offer sources close to family quotes, had gone dark. One senior royal aide reportedly walked out of a briefing. Another was seen exiting the palace in tears. For the first time in recent memory, even Buckingham Palace seemed paralyzed. Journalists described the mood inside as fractured. Staff members shuffled between offices, unsure what, if anything, they were supposed to say. The Queen's former press secretary told BBC Radio, "In all my years of service, I've never seen such silence. It's not just control messaging. It's confusion. And confusion, in a royal ecosystem built entirely on order, is a red flag." Meanwhile, the public watched, helpless. All they had were theories, conspiracies, gut feelings. Some clung to hope, Perhaps it was a health matter, deeply personal, and being handled with care. Others feared scandal, something so sensitive that even the palace couldn't get ahead of it. There were whispers of a decision made by William and Kate themselves, a moment of reckoning, a line drawn behind closed doors that forced the monarchy to stop, even for a moment, and reconsider everything. But whatever the truth was, it wasn't coming quickly. Under the silence persisted. The hours dragged on. The evening news rolled out with nothing more than recycled footage and talking heads speculating. And in homes across Britain and around the world, people asked the question no one wanted to say out loud. What if this isn't just a delay? What if this is the beginning of the end? Because in the royal world, absences don't go unplanned. Messages don't go unscripted. And silence? Silence is never meaningless. By the time the afternoon sun dipped behind the palace gates, the press had reached a boiling point. Journalists stood outside empty venues. News anchors delivered updates with nothing new to say. And the public? The public watched, waited, refreshed again and again, but no clarity came. It wasn't just confusion anymore. It was controlled chaos. The royal family, long known for its iron grip on narrative, was now the source of the fog. And the media, no matter how connected or well-placed, was flying blind. Inside newsrooms, whispers turned to frustration. Even the BBC, often deferential to the palace, began using the word that had, until now, been off-limits, unprecedented. And that's when it happened, the turning point. Not from the palace, not from an official spokesperson, but from someone much closer to the fire. A leak, quiet, deliberate, and just loud enough to change everything. A source, unnamed but verified by multiple journalists, delivered a single line to a respected royal correspondent. There has been an internal decision. It's temporary, but it's coming from them, not from above. Under them, William and Kate, not a health emergency, not a crisis imposed on them, but a decision made by them, a choice. And just like that, the narrative turned on its head. Theories shifted. The press began rewriting headlines in real time. This wasn't disappearance. It was withdrawal. But why? And more importantly, why now? The absence, once seen as a problem to be solved, was now viewed as a message. A protest not in words, but in silence. Had William and Kate decided to step back, quietly, deliberately, from public royal life? Not permanently, but powerfully enough to shake the institution that depends on their presence. Because without the future king and queen consort at the front of the stage, who's left? A fractured royal image, an aging monarch, a family divided by years of scandal, heartbreak, and internal exile. Suddenly, the strength of the monarchy, once seen as unbreakable, looked frighteningly fragile. Royal watchers and insiders began to murmur about power dynamics inside the palace. Was this a shot across the bow? A demand for change? Or a quiet rebellion by the very people expected to uphold the throne? Some saw echoes of Princess Diana, not in style but in substance. A refusal to play the part. A decision to put personal well-being before royal performance. And if William, the heir to the crown, was leading that choice, what did that mean for the future? Because of the most reliable, most stable, most adored couple in the royal family, some felt heartbreak. Others, fury. The British public, raised on royal tradition and polished appearances, felt something rare in response to crown. Betrayal. This wasn't the monarchy they knew, the one that offered strength in crisis, clarity in confusion, and comfort in uncertainty. This was uncertainty itself. And it didn't feel regal. It felt broken. Social media was ablaze. Hashtag where they trended globally. Late-night talk shows opened with royal jokes. Tabloid front pages declared the palace in peril. And in town squares, local pubs, even children's classrooms, people asked the same question again and again. What are they not telling us? Because it wasn't just about absence now. It was about trust. And for the first time in a long time, that trust was fractured. The royal family has always stood as an embodiment of strength under pressure, in times of war. through tragedy, in the face of scandal. But this was something different, not a crisis imposed upon them, but one they'd allowed to unfold in silence. And silence has consequences. Polls began to shift. Public opinion, usually rock solid when it came to William and Kate, began to waver. Some called it brave, a stand for personal well-being in a system that too often forgets its humanity. But others saw weakness, an abdication of duty, a crack in the image they were told was unbreakable. The royal family, long viewed as an institution above the everyday struggles of modern life, suddenly looked very human, and not everyone found that comforting. Meanwhile, the media, once deferential, once loyal, turned. Headlines that once celebrated Kate the steady and William the modern monarch now read like something else entirely. Royal rift widens. Inside the palace breakdown. Future the crown in jeopardy. Even the more established outlets, those traditionally aligned with the palace, began asking hard questions. Was the institution losing control? Had the pressure finally caught up with the picture-perfect couple? And most of all, who's actually in charge now? Inside Buckingham Palace, the tension was palpable. Royal advisors, accustomed to handling everything behind polished doors, found themselves scrambling, not to shape the narrative, but to catch up to it. Communications teams worked overtime, but produced nothing of substance. No new statements, no scheduled appearances, no answers. The public relations machine, once so precise it could predict headlines days in advance, was now frozen. Because how you explain a silence that even the palace doesn't fully understand? And as cameras lingered outside the gates of Kensington and Windsor, there was no flicker of movement, just stillness, and a growing realization. This was not a moment to be managed. It was a shift, a reckoning. The monarchy has weathered wars, divorces, deaths, and decades of scrutiny. But this was different. Not a scandal, not a tragedy, but a decision made by two of its most vital figures to step away without apology. And in doing so, they didn't just disrupt the institution. They exposed it, because in the quiet they left behind, all the questions the monarchy had worked so hard to bury are now echoing louder than ever. Days have passed, and still no answers. The media continues to search, endlessly turning over crumbs of speculation. Experts debate the optics. Former palace staff give guarded interviews, and the world keeps refreshing their feeds, waiting for something. But all they're met with is silence. There's no photograph to mark the moment, no balcony wave, no farewell tour, just an absence, a hollow space where duty used to live, where certainty used to stand, where the monarchy, for all its traditions, always knew its next move. Now no one does. And in that space, something else has taken root. Doubt. Because for the first time in recent memory, the royal family has lost the one thing it prized most: control. Control over its message. Control over its image. Control over its future. William and Kate, the pillars of stability, the face of modern monarchy, made a decision that wasn't rehearsed or approved. They stepped away, and in doing so, they stepped outside the script. Some say it's temporary. Others believe the damage is already done. Because if the future king and queen can walk away, even briefly, even quietly, what does that mean for the system itself? The monarchy has always survived by projecting permanence, by being the one thing that does not change, even as the world around it crumbles. But now even the crown feels fragile. And while the headlines may fade and the next scandal might come along, the wound left behind by this moment won't heal quickly. It lingers in the silence, in the mystery, in the simple, devastating reality that no one really knows what's going on inside. So where does that leave us? A nation unsure, a public divided, an institution cracked, and two people, one seen as a future, now reduced to questions with no answers. Will they return? Will they lead again? Or has something shifted permanently, quietly, and completely behind those palace walls? Underscore, the monarchy has endured wars, abdications, divorces, and scandals. But this moment of quiet rebellion may be the most dangerous yet, because it didn't come from outside forces. It came from within. Underscore, so we end where we began.